Hello and welcome to the Dash News podcast. This is episode 97. I'm Mark Mason and I'm joined by my two fellow hosts, Joel Valenzuela. How's it going?
Feeling fantastic. There's definitely a dashy undercurrent going through the crypto space these days.
Man, so much stuff is happening. It's just announcement. If you're in Discord, you're just constantly getting pings. But, this is a good problem to have, right? And anyway, that brings me on to my next guest. Oh, sorry, I should say guest host.
How rude.
Although, it's good to have Brian back. So welcome back to the podcast, Brian.
Thank you.
Excellent. And for this episode, I think it's going to be interesting particularly for you masternode owners out there. We have Joshua, who is the CEO of Vaultoro. So Joshua, or should I say Josh? I know you don't mind each way. It's Joshua Scigala. Correct? Did I get that right?
Wow.
See?
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we've been on a podcast together before on Tatiana because, you're no stranger to podcast yourself because you co-host Tatiana's one on the Let's Talk Bitcoin network, correct?
Yeah, that's right. The LTB network over that way. We've been doing it since like 2015 or 16. Yeah, it just keeps going. It's really nice. It's fun to get on and talk with people that are movers and shakers in this industry like you guys are.
Oh, fantastic. And to be honest, you're no stranger to Dash yourself. I mean, because you're quite substantially invested in Dash yourself, because you're no stranger to the community. Let's just, from the get-go, let's just get that out there, right?
Yeah, how much do you have and where do you keep it?
That's right. Yeah. No, look, I've been following the project since Darkcoin because it was really the first coin that took fungibility seriously. Of course, we always had mixers in Bitcoin, and a lot of people know me as a massive Bitcoin fan, and I am, and I will never stop. And I think when it comes to kudos or credit in this industry, I feel that a lot of people are like, Bitcoin, it's old technology, or Dash, now we've got PIVX, or now we've got, let's give respect to the first movers, the people in the communities that have taken and invented new, like in Dash's case, governance models and the DAO concepts and all these things. With Bitcoin, let's give kudos to the fact that, digital money that can't be copied was invented, and I think, tip our hats to some of these better projects because, we all know there's a lot of scams in this space. So it's really good to, tip our hats to projects that are actually building solutions, and that's really important.
So for those that don't know, in a nutshell, what is Vaultoro?
So Vaultoro is basically, I lost a lot of money in Mt. Gox when that collapsed. This was a large exchange. It was the first exchange.
That's a good way to start out the value proposition. Yeah. Oh yeah, I lost a ton of money, by the way. So
probably a lot more money now.
Yeah, that's right. It was it was horrible. And this was after a string of online wallet exchanges and things like that were going bust. And I just had enough. Not just purely for my loss, but also the fact that this evolution that was happening in money, this revolution in a way, was being sort of brought down by these bad actors. And you'd see headlines like CEO of Bitcoin steals money, just because everyone was uneducated at that time. And it made me want to build transparency protocols and understand transparency in crypto. So, pardon me, my brother and I, we went and built the Glass Books protocol, which was to enable users to basically verify how above reserve or equal to reserve an exchange is. See, if this was implemented in Mt. Gox, red flags would have popped up all over the place. We wouldn't have needed just Roger Ver saying, yes, it's all there. We could have actually seen ourselves because, the blockchain is the blockchain or a blockchain, and we can verify that as users. So we created that. And then we thought, well, you know what? All these people that had fiat on Mt. Gox, all the liquidators are now chewing through that fiat because that fiat is on Mt. Gox's books. So how can we have an exchange that can be allocated, the counter asset can be allocated to users in the user's name as their legal property? It can be fully audited and fully insured. Well, that's gold. So we partnered up with one of the largest gold suppliers and vaulting facilities in Europe called Pro Aurum. and they've been operating for a very long time, very well established, audited by one of the largest auditing firms in the world, and also fully insured. And said, let's build a trading platform, an order book, where people can trade between physical gold and Bitcoin. And then when they want to jump back out, they can jump back out at any time. And this is important because the other thing that I wanted to do was start developing something that could have a price discovery system for Bitcoin or for crypto that wasn't based on fiat. Of course, fiat is in there because fiat manipulates prices in all sorts of ways. But hopefully, once we get big enough, we can have an impact to say, you know what, here's the price discovery between people trading these digital rare numbers and these rare metals together.
Interesting.
So we built Vaultoro, and we've been going since 2015. Traded $80 million worth of gold and bullion. In 2017, it went nuts. And this was only Bitcoin and gold. And when we built Vaultoro and started building in 2014, altcoins weren't really, they were kind of a funny side project thing that you kind of wasn't really taken seriously. And so we built it just as Bitcoin and gold. And then we realized over the last couple of years, there are some really good projects that are also very, very valuable in this space. And when I went to have a look at, when I was traveling a lot last year, I really saw that Dash and Litecoin, and there was other projects where certain geographical regions would gravitate to certain communities, certain blockchains, and this was very interesting. I think it's one of those things that, especially Dash, they put a lot of effort into Venezuela, for instance. As you guys would probably obviously go on and on about, because there's such amazing proposals getting put through for that place, and we see like Lorenzo Rey and Alejandro working very hard down that way. We also Eugenia Scigala, I can never pronounce her name properly, but
Alcala, that's good, close enough.
Yeah, Dash and Dash Venezuela and all these grassroots things, and that is just that to me. That is what crypto.
And Dash Colombia, let's get that in there because this year Dash Colombia has been doing phenomenal.
George Donnelly down that way. It also doing great work, and I like to keep track of these things that are happening in these communities. So it's really great to see what they're doing. I noticed that Dash Colombia and George, fantastic work, but he was mentioning stuff about building a stable coin on Dash, and the thing that I'm worried about is if we look at something like Tether or fiat coins, I like to call them. I don't like to call them stable coins because they're fiat coins. And if we look at something like Tether being the most famous, these are really scary instruments because Tether has 2.8 billion at its peak. I think it's back down to about 2 billion, small number, sitting in 2 bank accounts in Malaysia. I mean, this is 2 bank accounts covering those. I'm presumably 1 billion each. They haven't been audited because they say, well, if we get audited, then people know which banks we use, then the banks will shut us down. I mean, this is for me the most ludicrous thing in the world. As well as that, Malaysian bank accounts are only insured to 60K each. So if there's a banking crisis and these banks falter, there goes 2 billion and you've got 120K. Yay. So this is really quite dangerous. The other problem with stable coins is that you have, well, fiat coins, is that if you have a bad actor that goes and buys something that's not very legal, and authorities swarm in and manage to arrest the guy or girl, they might open up the contract and say, hang on, you paid with this Tether thing. Where is that? What's backing that? Oh, it's in this bank account, freeze it. And so the whole economy collapses because of one bad actor. And this is everything that we in the crypto space fight against.
Yeah, I have to admit, when I was looking at when Tether varied by a lot from its peg recently, I started to get worried because generally, I mean, first off, the market was terrible then too. And then I was like, oh, what happens if this is the death blow that just sends us into like a decade of like basically, destroy everyone's value. Everyone has to be laid off kind of thing, because everything was running on Tether, everything USDT. And then, of course, I follow Bitfinex on Twitter and watch everything. Obviously everything with a grain of salt, because whenever you have like 100% hater kind of a person, it's like you never quite know, but I still pay attention. And it could be a little scary, especially since when we're trying to think about what is money. Money is value. It is a store and a tool to store and transfer the value that people ascribe to, say, labor or other goods or something, just a convenient medium of exchange. And when you start to say, like, what is fiat? Well, it's like money that has value because like a government said it did, kind of. Or it used to be backed by gold, by something that people organically used as money. And then now it's just like, yeah, it's basically the same thing. Trust us. And then that's already bad. That's why a lot of people are going to cryptocurrencies, because it's like not fiat. It's not by dictate. It's something else. But then you have fiat backed fiat in a weird way with these stable coins. You have like an asset that's worth something because someone just says, oh yeah, it's backed by kind of, maybe not entirely, by some other thing that's also just made up value because someone said it. And that's just like, it's like, I just see the house of cards there. It's just one little tick and then the whole thing can go down, especially since Tether recently updated their terms of service to say that it's not all backed by fiat currency. It's fiat and other things. And I'm like, look, oh goodness.
Even if you get auditors to come in and audit Tether.
Yes.
And they say, okay, bank accounts got the exact amount in there. Well, do you know what? Banks run on fractional reserve. So even if they say the bank accounts are in there, the banks are speculating with those funds like crazy. So you got one side speculating with the funds. You got the crypto world speculating on this side. What could go wrong?
Yeah, it's so many layers. That's an extra layer. There's a fiat currency that the government says is worth something, and you just hope that their central bank doesn't mess it up. Then the bank has fractional reserve of that, and then that fractional reserve of the fake money is backing this other fake money. It sounds like you're getting into trouble. It does not sound like good at all. And I understand the point in wanting something stable that's not susceptible to so much volatility. But is there something I miss, because I don't pay much attention to stable coins in general? Is there something I'm missing that they do other than allow you to move in and out of fiat easily without dealing with the government regulations associated with that?
I mean, what they do is they allow, that's basically, it's more of an exchange problem, that these exchanges that didn't want to deal with money transmitter licenses said, well, we're not dealing with money, we're dealing with cryptographic tokens. And so all of a sudden they didn't need these licenses. And this is why Bitfinex was really in love with this concept. And, in one way, it was a really handy way of moving liquidity. It was great for arbitrage, things like this. But with all these problems, there has to be a solution. And this is why I feel that gold is a really great solution, because gold can be allocated to a certain private key. So if we have a bad actor in the field, all they can take is the gold associated with that, because they are not legally in a legal. I mean, a government can do anything if it's rogue, but in a well-structured legal environment, all a state could do is come in and take that bad actor's gold, and that's fine. I don't want some kiddie fiddler having a bunch of gold. If they've done a crime, they should. It should be paid. But if we start tying things to real value, this is probably one of the best use cases of smart contracts. I still am waiting to see a proper killer app for smart contracts, and I think really stable coins is kind of one of the first true use cases. Again, going back to currency being the killer app for blockchain. And everyone's going, for years now, Bitcoin's not that impressive, but I think blockchain, the underlying technology is really impressive. This nonsense It's really a crazy argument. It's kind of like saying poker's extremely interesting, but playing cards, nah, I don't think they have a future. It sort of doesn't make sense.
So
Well,
the
especially since people didn't just jump on blockchain. There is no blockchain. What's the valuation of blockchain-based companies? It was all in Bitcoin. It's like 95% of all of cryptocurrency's valuation even was in this one coin. And if you just look at cryptocurrency projects compared to, well, what's the value? How much money is Walmart making on their blockchain they're working on, or whatever other thing? It's like, why Bitcoin's the reason why people paid attention to begin with. And it's not just like, that's interesting, but we'll see. It's like, it is a little bit of a weird argument to be like, this technology captured everyone's imagination and out of one use case, and everyone's just going crazy over this one use case, which is digital money. And then, but that's no good. Just the other use cases that no one cared about before, those are the good ones. It just does not make any sense to me, which is why during the whole boom of 2017 and stuff, and everyone's talking about all kinds of data platforms and smart contracts and stuff, and everyone's just like, money, that's old news. We don't care about that. It's like, why? You're still all using fiat. Like, we still haven't won that battle. Why don't we focus on money? Why don't we actually have payment systems and stores of value and things like that? Why don't we actually take them to their logical conclusion first before we start kind of getting distracted? No, butterfly, smart contract.
Yeah, I mean, how many times a day do you need to use an immutable database? And how many times a day do you need to use cash? I mean, that should just spell it out right there. But I think that Dash as well, the other killer app for blockchain, is a decentralized autonomous organization. Oh, yeah. And Dash being one of the first to really implement that in a solid way that's been running for a long time now is really also a big kudos to the team, the development and the community there of masternodes doing that. I think that's really interesting way of structuring upgrades, structuring everything from what you guys are doing now with chain locks and the LLMQ upgrade in 14.0. These are all really interesting steps forward.
Does someone want to jump on, start talking about that, the big news of the day?
Oh, we can come to the testnet and stuff later. And also stable coins as well. Like, that's a really big topic at the moment. So if we've got time later on, I'd like to come to that because lots of people are bringing that up. Me and Joel have spoken about this just a few days ago. So I know we've got personal feelings on it, but that's a big topic to debate. Let's bring it back around to the gold situation. So it's not that you just love gold. Like, I love gold. It's just that in truth, you want to stay away from the debt-based fiat currency that's using fractional reserve banking, and the banks have got the casino arms and they're lending out, and that's the problem. So in terms of as a mechanism, you would prefer to use whether you believe gold is money or not. I personally do, but even as a commodity, it makes much more sense to tie it to that as a physical instrument rather than something that can be inflated, right? And so is that the real reason why behind this service, or do you feel as well that people should be diversified? They should have a bit of gold, they should have a bit of crypto, or is it just this mechanism? You just want to get away from the fiat currency?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I think definitely diversification is important. We saw a lot of diversification at the end of 2017. The smart people were starting to put money into gold on our platform. We were selling more gold than one of the second largest golding supplier could supply quickly enough. So they were like, "Oh, we need money." It was amazing. Of course, now it's slowed down a lot, so it's good, and we're taking steps to do that, but to organize that for the next time. But the fact of the matter is that you need diversification, and a lot of these ICOs also, they had these massive collateral sitting there in crypto, and they think, wow, they've raised millions, and now they're sitting on nothing comparatively. I mean, this is the same for the core dev team. If they had taken what they get now just 1 month and did that in 2017, they'd have a couple of mil sitting there to be a little bit more fluid with. And look, that's not to say let's just stay in the ecosystem. To be fiscally responsible is about taking proven things and removing risk from business. Removing risk is extremely important. And sure, you want to stay in Dash as the Dash core and Dash community would like as much as possible. But there's nothing wrong with diversifying slightly out. You also diversify into fiat. That's what people do. But it's rather than going to fiat, why not go into something that's allocated to you as your legal property and then trade it back for Dash when you need to pay people or pay users?
Are there tax implications when you're going into gold like that, like you would into fiat?
So tax implications are interesting. The vaulting facility is in a tax-free zone in Switzerland. This means that there's no VAT. There's no VAT on the silver either. It's only if you move it to certain jurisdictions. Now, every country is different in terms of the barter that you might do between one commodity and another, meaning Dash and gold. Maybe some countries define that as a taxable event. Not sure. In Germany, if you held for a year, then it's tax-free, and then the new commodity you also have to hold for a year. But yeah, definitely don't take tax advice from me. Go seek a professional.
So you're able to take possession. I'm able to take possession if I have like Dash and gold. I'm able to say, yeah, send me my gold.
Yes. So we were not set up for to get cheap gold that you can take home and cuddle. Of course, you can do that because it's your gold, it's your property. We're not going to stop you from doing that. But
I can't go to bed at night without cuddling my silver.
Cuddling your silver. I mean, it's also definitely good to do. But one thing I like to tell clients is that, because this is a long-standing myth that if you don't hold the gold, then it's not yours. It's very, very scary to hold large amounts of savings at home. In fact, if there's any person that understands risk or any group, it's insurance companies. That's all they do all day is they study risk and they analyze it and they give you odds. And those odds come out as prices to cover and underwrite a policy. Gold to store at home, to secure a home, is almost impossible to insure. You will find them, but the price is extraordinarily high. If you want to, and that's because the risk is ridiculously high. Now, to store it in a professional, high security, top tier vaulting facility that's fully audited, and that is easy to insure. In fact, it's so cheap to insure because even if the Ocean's 11 team was managed to get in there, it's almost impossible to carry out because it's just so heavy. So it's kind of the insurance prices really show the risks of securing at home. That's not to say you shouldn't. I think people should have a little bit at home.
Did you see the stories of people, Venezuelans crossing the border into Colombia, having their gold confiscated? Is that why you mentioned Venezuela as well? Because you're thinking, well, if only, I mean, of course, if they cross the border, I would hope they'd keep hold of the Dash deal. But of course, Vaultoro would have solved that problem to a certain extent, correct?
That's right. We're actually, our CMO is Venezuelan, and it's been a tough couple of weeks for him, seeing it really hit a new high with the electricity falling out and all this stuff. It's very, very, very hard for him. But one of the things we're working on with him is to understand the situation a bit more on the ground. And the worst thing that I can imagine is that these poor people are breaking their backs, panning for gold, finding little specks and selling it for fiat. Again, I mean, this is just tragic. So what I want to do is be able maybe set up some bricks and mortar down on the Colombian border where we can trade to crypto, to Dash, or to what we want to release is this V Gold, which will be the tokenized version of Vaultoro Gold, because right now it's all just settled on our database. We haven't tokenized it for the last 5 years because it opens up a can of worms. But
hang on a second. You said V Gold and token, but just before we were talking about exchange tokens and stuff in a negative light.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to have to elaborate on that a bit more. I'm not going to let you get away with it that easy. You explain the concept of V-Gold, because how is that different from a Binance token or exchange token?
Yeah. So basically, what we're looking at, and this is something that I've been thinking a lot about for the last 5 years. Do we need to tokenize gold? If we can do the settlement within our system, and it's, we see gold money doing the same, we see Bullion Vault doing the same, is it really needed? And the fact, what I wanted to get to was, hey, gold is not programmable if it's like that. It's not, I can't send it on secondary markets. I can't take possession of the contract. So that's one thing where I thought, well, let's have a look at the legal frameworks that would need to be attacked or settled or understood so we can try to tokenize it. And for the last 3 years, I've really been looking at that. So how are we different from any other token or what we're working on? And just, I want to be really clear here. We are not going to release something if it's not 100% understood legally and structurally. It's not an ICO. It's not anything like that. It's basically what we want to do is, when you have a bailment contract, this is a common law contract in the UK. It's spread across all the Commonwealth countries. It's a bailment contract is where I have some gold, I give it to you to look after because you've got a massive vaulting facility and security and people with guns. I open up a bail-law contract, which means I give my physical property, which still belongs to me, and you look after it. That's all. This is very different to a banking relationship. When you give money to a bank, it's not your legal property anymore. It's theirs. That's why they pay you interest. That's why they can go off and speculate and do whatever the heck they want with it. This is a very different. So what we want to do is take this bailment contract and turn it into what we're calling a smart bailment contract. It's basically taking that contract of ownership as not a legal claim, but as a contract of true ownership, and saying, instead of it being a PDF, let's put it into a token that can't be copied. Let's put it into just another digital form, but this digital form I can send to you, and I don't have it anymore. So this is where we should move in terms of what these things are. And I wish there was another word than token, because token conjures up all sorts of nonsense, but
for sure,
and so we're trying to figure out, how can we have something that can't be copied, that is legally tied to a single bar in the vault, that is the same thing. It's just it moves to you, and now the signer of that private key proves that they can have legal claim to that is their property, not even a claim.
You should create a Dash DApp to do that. I'm sure you're already familiar with the cannabis genome DNA all stored on the Dash blockchain. This is perfect. Yeah. And Chuck Williams, who you're also familiar with, previously has spoken in the past, like, once Evolution is up and running and we have dApps, there is the possibility of creating tokens on there. It's not something that we've explored because we need to get past the finish line first. There are other things we need to do, but this is fantastic. And I had no idea about this Venezuelan idea that you have. So you've got Vultoro. Dare I say, could we have a Dash Toro in Venezuela? I think I need to hook you up. We need to have a meeting with Ernesto, because if there is a chance of, because remittances are a big thing, but obviously sometimes there's legal issues, especially in Venezuela, when you're dealing with currencies. The US dollar, just to show the exchange rate in US dollar, is a punishable offense. So Dash Toro, and if your partner's in Venezuela as well, we've got people there. Ernesto, our biz dev, he's originally from Venezuela. He's now located in Mexico. I'm sure we could get something working on that front. But I don't want to steal too much of the limelight for what we're here to talk about. But if you want to, if you've got...
At the end of the day, it's not about limelight for me. It's really about getting solutions for people that really need it. And I don't just say that to sort of, look, a virtue signal. It's really important, man. Like, what's happening down there? If we cannot get crypto working in Venezuela, then we might as well pack our bags and go home altogether.
Oh, man. I mean, retarded clap. That's awesome. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
I'm kind of I'm like an 80% agreement on that statement. Definitely. Yeah. Because Venezuela has some elements of an absolute dream situation for crypto in that the government money sucks. The government payment system suck. It's all terrible. And so it's like, why not use this other thing that's just so much better? And then there's the 20% is like, yeah, but super high risk. Like people are trying to they're not really experimenting with things too much. They're just trying to hold on to whatever works in that day-to-day time. Some people might be scared of government repercussions, blackouts, internet problems, infrastructure problems. And so, for example, when we see merchants in Venezuela, it's like, oh yeah, I got a paper QR code here, or I got like an old PC with the screen that they have to hand the phone behind the desk to like do. There's like some, and then it took too long to like. There's all this infrastructural problems related to basically the cutting edge technology. And so there's a little bit of 20% of where Venezuela is a nightmare situation for cryptocurrency business or for cryptocurrency to take off. But yes, I do agree. 80% it's absolutely where it should work, if not. And by the way, the 20% is just a present day crypto thing because no one really knows how to use crypto. Everyone just like, oh, phone wallet for like people in the first world with good connections and good smartphones and just to send to their friends. It doesn't really need to work that well. There need to be solutions like, for example, Dash Text that allows the SMS-based messaging to actually go pay invoices and stuff like that. And so those kind of technological hurdles will be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, one of our oldest and best customers, who's also a massive Dash fan, he put it really well. I had a chat with him recently, and he said to me that the biggest thing in nature, in evolution, really is redundancy. We all have 2 arms, we have 2 eyes, we have 2 kidneys, 2 legs. If one goes wrong, you've got the other to stand on. You've got the other kidney to work. And Dash.
So a Bitcoin needs a Litecoin?
Well, the thing is, I don't see that as a redundancy because I see, if you look at any graph with, diversifying throughout the crypto space really isn't a diversification because everything seems to move the same. Whether that changes or not, I'm not sure. I hope it does as we move forward. But right now, it's not the case. And I think the redundancy really is gold because just like this, as I was saying before, a rare number that Dash is, you also have rare metal. And these two work really well together. If there is a black swan event or if there's a massive crash, you have a thing that's very, very similar, but totally different. Gold, you have 3,000 years of understanding in human DNA of what this stuff is. Independent countries all valuing this stuff and using it as currency and money. But the problem is, so it's got that stability over the thousands of years, but it's hard to move around, hard to verify. It's not very divisible easily, although it is divisible down to the atomic level theoretically. But it's stable. So on the other hand, you've got Dash, which is something that's or Bitcoin that's very, very movable. It's very liquid. It's easy verifiable. It's divisible. All these great things, but it's very volatile. So by putting these things together, you have this great redundancy. And for Venezuela, if we can get the right recipe where it's easy to use, the UX is beautiful and it's simple and it's slippery, then I think we can get a lot more traction down that way.
Does Vaultoro have silver as well, or is it just gold?
We started to look at silver. It's been one of the biggest questions from our users to say, when can I do silver? When can we do silver? It's not something we've done because we wanted to work on Vaultoro 2.0, and this is something we've the Dash community actually has paid from the DAO for us back in May, I think it was the 22nd. Proposal was, and then in June we got our first payout, and that's something that's on the cards definitely. But the main thing was when we first got when we first got through the proposal, we were like, okay, let's look, how do we do this Dash thing? So we wanted to take the whole thing in Vaultoro 1.0 and duplicate it. You know, we haven't been hacked in so many years. Why? Because we know our code back to front. We're security obsessed. And the thing is, by taking everything, copying it and moving it and having 2 order books and just sort of clunkily chunking it together, we open up the attack vector quite a lot. So we thought, geez, you know, after all this, I think it's better we rewrite from the ground up with the ability to have other assets. And that includes silver and things like this, other pairs. And so by coding from the ground up, we really have taken a lot longer, and I really apologize, and I thank the Dash community for being patient with this. But like you all know, that you want to do things properly when it comes to crypto. Crypto is far too slippery to, you know, you can't be 99% secure. It's not an option. You have to be 100% secure, and this is a hard feat in the digital space.
Now, there used to be a token. I invested in it shortly. That was it like the Digi DAO or something like that did back the gold? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Digix.
Yeah.
Digix.
Go ahead. Oh
no. So yeah, Digix. You know what I really liked about them is that they just went and did it. I see problems in the way that they structured it. There's issues with fragmentation, meaning that if you like, for instance, if you have even a little bit of Bitcoin, which maybe you guys don't, it's just Dash, but even if you have a little, you would have a few Satoshis of the 10,000 Bitcoin pizza transaction from the early days, because eventually every Bitcoin splits and moves, and you kind of have this defragmentation effect. And so with gold, if you have a bad actor, and they even have a little sliver of gold, or maybe 1 gram, if you open up that smart contract and you have this fragmentation, you might see that they actually own a slight little tiny bit of every single bar. And you don't want that. And so this is the kind of things that Digix didn't think about in the start. Maybe they'll think about it later. It's a running machine. The other thing is the fees are on top of ETH. ETH is very expensive. You know, we're definitely looking at how to solve these issues, and that's key.
Okay, Josh, I'm liking what I'm hearing so far, right? But I still need some convincing, because I used to be a bullion vault holder back in the day. And whenever you have allocated precious metals, there's a storage fee as well that you have to pay, right? So, which is understandable. Like you said, if you take it on board yourself, you have the risk. And we spoke about the insurance side of things. So if it's a substantial amount, then sometimes allocated makes sense. Yeah. So how do the storage fees work? Are they really drastic, or is it achieved? How does it all work?
Yeah, so you know, it's true. We have what's called a demurrage fee. This is the cost of holding value, and the fee is 0.04% a year or something. It's very, very small. I can pull up the latest. I don't know, but basically, it's a very, very nominal fee. It's tiny. The reason this is important, though, is that there were contracts in the past that Swiss companies or vaulting facilities have had, where it's like free vaulting, and then the person dies that holds the gold, has no relatives, and the vaulting facility has to hold that gold forever because and pay for it, because I mean,
ultimate hodl.
The ultimate hodl, yeah, because there's no fee, and we don't know how to get in contact with the client. So a fee is an interesting one. We did look at covering fees ourselves, but it's one of these things that, look, we're holding physical metal. It's the same reason why I like when I use a Bitcoin or a crypto exchange, I like to know that they take a little bit of a fee. I like them to be profitable. I like them to have some sort of incentive to keep going. And these vaulting facilities, they pay for security, people with guns, big doors, auditing, insurance. All these have costs, and all these keep your value safe. if you ever find a vaulting facility that doesn't charge vaulting fees, I would be very, very suspicious of them.
So to keep it practical, if Brian purchased 100 Dash worth of gold on Vaultoro, how would that be invoiced? Would you send him an invoice monthly that he has to pay, or do you deduct that from the 100 Dash that he bought in gold? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so basically the gold would be sitting there, and that would be deducted either on trade. When you move it back to Dash, a little bit of the gold would be taken as the fee for how long you stored it, or if you've already traded it back and it wasn't the time that we deduct that, then we would deduct it on withdrawal of the Dash. We'd say, oh, by the way, you owe us this much for storage of gold that you held for 2 weeks or whatever it was.
That's good, because if like Brian went on holiday for a couple of weeks thinking, oh god, I forgot to pay that monthly invoice for storage fees, and now Josh is like, that gold is all mine now.
No. We tried to make it as easy as possible without too much thought, and we really are. We don't make any money on these storage fees. We just push it forward to the client because we want to make gold money again. We want to make gold as something that is a hedge easily without this giant cost. And we want gold to be accessible to the developing countries as well, or countries that are in currency crises. These are really important tools. They shouldn't be, these massive vaulting facilities shouldn't just be for high, elite, wealthy people that can afford to secure their wealth. Imagine, I gave talks in Cyprus a year ago, and I talked to an older woman. She had worked her entire life as a nurse, I believe, and she bought a house. She bought an apartment and then sold it after living in it for 10, 12 years, and put that money in a bank, ready to get ready to retire, and live on those savings. And Friday it was there, Monday it was gone, the whole lot gone. And this was, and when I talked to her about why didn't you put something in gold, because the banking crisis in Cyprus, by the way, for the listeners that don't know, Cyprus had a massive banking crisis. The banks collapsed. They basically stole everyone's money. 2 weeks later, insurance kicked in and put in like 10% of what they had, or 12% or something. Or it was a fixed amount, 100 grand or something they put back. Anyway, her savings went from 800 grand down to 100 grand. That's basically it. But isn't it crazy? And I asked her, why didn't you have any money in gold or anything else? She goes, well, I didn't know how to do all that. It's just too hard to get access to these professional facilities. And, this is something we really want to solve for non-technocratics as well as technocratics.
How long have y'all been in business?
So we started, I've been in crypto for a long time, and it was after Mt. Gox that we started coding all through 2014. We launched February 2015.
Yeah. Have y'all had any governments come and seize people's gold or crypto, or like warrants and stuff?
No, we had one police officer ring up about a certain individual that had been buying and selling contraband on the dark web, I believe. And we talked to our lawyer about the information, and the lawyer said, look, under European law, we're not allowed to give information even to the police. They have to come with a warrant about that specific person. They can't do a blanket warrant. The good thing about European law, it is very, very private centric. There are a lot of things based around privacy once you have proven who you are.
As long as they don't ban memes. I'm standing firm on that.
Man, if they ban memes, I think the whole of the world will collapse.
Look, so from a service point of view, you've mentioned that you would like to really focus a lot of your efforts on countries that are really in need right now. But Vaultoro, is it open to everyone, or is there some countries that just can't take part in your service?
Yeah, well, if you go on to sign up on Vaultoro, you'll see a little tick box saying, I'm not a citizen of North Korea, Iran, Syria, or New York.
That's a good collection. In good company, huh?
Yeah, in good company. So yeah, no, that's unfortunate, but it is the case. We just have to abide by it. I think it's I think sanctions are a ridiculous notion. I think they're quite despicable because it is the people that suffer. It's the normal people that are trying to live. None of this, it's not the politicians that suffer through this. They understand how to get around all these ridiculous. But it is what it is, and we follow the law. Absolutely.
So for those with short memories, you say that you put in a proposal to the Dash Treasury, which was funded. So can you just give a small recap of what that detailed? Was it just to develop a Dash to gold trading pair on Vaultoro, or was there more? You mentioned like Vaultoro 2.0. Was there other things as well?
So it started off, we just wanted to put a Dash pair onto Vaultoro because we kept on getting requests from the Dash community. Hey, I want to convert my Dash. Also shapeshifted. I think it was just before that had started to not, they needed KYC and all this other stuff. So we said, okay, let's put a proposal in. I think this would be a really cool idea. And I also really love the idea of the Dash proposal mechanisms. I hate going to VCs and all this sort of stuff. I think VCs have their place, and currently we're raising an equity round. But I think for certain things, this Dash DAO is just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Now, what we did was we sought about 100K to do that, and that would be bringing more developers. We were a very small team. We had like 5 people. And that turned out, by the time we got funded, it turned to about 60K. And then the thing is, we hedged the first tranche in gold, so we ended up with about 75K. So that was kind of useful. But like I said earlier, what happened was we looked at duplicating the code in 1.0, and it was just going to open us up to an attack surface that we didn't want to deal with. And to be diligent, it's much better to say, look, I'm so sorry, guys. It's going to take longer than the few months we thought because we're rewriting from scratch to make this possible and then to offer silver. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate that it didn't happen quicker, but at the same time, I'm far happier that we are secure and we continue our legacy of being secure instead of trying to rush things through and open ourselves up for some sort of attack.
So is Dash live right now, or?
It's not live yet. In the back end, our beta, I should say, it's live. It's running. We've done transactions. We really want to make sure that InstaSend is set up because I love the idea of being able to pick orders out of the order book without trusting our hot wallet. By having some sort of instant buy on, we can watch the blockchain and instantly snap up gold and have gold in their account without having to go to a hot wallet, waiting for confirmations and all the rest of it. So this is something we're just tidying up and making sure is right. In terms of the Dash integration, we really wanted to focus on that being the first part of the proposal. We said that Dash would be the first other gold pair apart from Bitcoin that would be on the platform. We will have some other cryptos, but they will not trade with gold for the first few months because we wanted to say thank you to the Dash community and have that gold pair. And I think at the end of the day, it's a really good thing for Dash to allow other people that want to get into Dash to go through whatever the crap they're holding and go into something that is a solid project like Dash, and we want to enable people to do that.
Can you help me understand something?
Yeah.
So, I think I recall seeing somewhere that it said that although you have the ability to have the Dash to gold trading pair, there'll be the ability to do crypto to crypto exchange and stuff as well. And I think you're saying there was an advantage to it. So can you just explain, if Stay Dashy had some gold on Vaultoro, Why would Stay Dashy want to do a crypto to crypto exchange in Vulturo? What's the benefit? What's the advantage of this? What am I missing?
You know, people that are hardcore Dash people will just want to hedge in gold and jump back into Dash. But there are other people that have made the mistake of buying something else and don't like it, or they're traders and they just want to make money by trading back and forth. And this is good for Dash because it adds liquidity to the marketplace. You know, one thing we've missed in Vulturo, because we've had one single pair for the last 5 years, is liquidity. It's tough because a lot of liquidity is moved into a lot of these other coins. So by allowing crypto to crypto, we're bringing some of that liquidity back to people that want to be able to, you know, have more liquidity without moving markets and things like that. So there is that. It's one of these things where I believe that if you're a top project like Dash is or like Bitcoin is, you just stand out automatically because you already are a fantastic project. You've got fantastic feet on the ground. You've got this governance model that you've got people really passionate about moving forward, and projects that are real, doing real things. So I think by enabling people to move into Dash, it's only a good thing. If people have to jump through hoops and try to get Dash with the crap that they've bought, or with euros or whatever, I think it's always a net positive if people can move into Dash easily.
So what's the launch date?
We're aiming to have beta testing done with throughout April, and hopefully, if all goes well, mid-May. So that would have been a full round. Maybe we can meet the May 22nd when the proposal went live and have the full year.
Well, I think this would be a good time to mention the blog post, because recently, if you're on the Discord channels, you would have seen, and I think we retweeted it and it went out on the official Dash social media outlets as well, that Vulturo recently put out a blog post that sometime in mid-April, there's going to be a sign-up functionality. And if you do sign up, you get an advantage. What is that advantage you get? Is it no fees or something like that? Or
yeah, you'll get free crypto to crypto trading once we launch. And so this is a way for, you know, us to say thanks and to also bring some liquidity into the market, hopefully. And you know, because I've talked to, funnily enough, like 3 people lately who were really upset that Shapeshift had gone down the road of the KYC thing. I'm friends with Eric, and I understand why they've had to do that. It's because the you know, the fat arm of the law has come down and said, well, you know, blah blah blah. So it's something that people can't help. But what they miss is easily to jump into Dash. And one of them said to me, I really want to buy Dash, but I have to sign up to a proper exchange now. And then I said, well, we'll be accepting Dash. Dash will be on Vulturo 2.0, and we'll set up a pair with whatever you're holding. We'll have a look. Of course, it has to be audited. I don't want to take any old crap, but it'll allow them to jump into Dash then again. It won't have the same ease as Shapeshift did.
No KYC.
No. Originally we had no KYC for $5,000 a day or euros a day, and during the 2017 run up, Pro Aurum, our voting facility, said, "Look, guys, you know, this is allocated gold sitting in the person's name as their legal property. You're allocating it to emails. Legally, it works." But we feel more comfortable if we got names, because if they die, the client dies, then the estate's management's going to have to prove who the gold belonged to. Then it's just a big nightmare proving email addresses. So they asked for more proper KYC. We're not a financial institution, so we don't have the same hardcore reporting standards. We do need to obviously report suspicious behavior, which is, you know, if we got million every day coming in from the same client up to the point where we have to say something, then we'd say, look, this looks a little bit suspicious. We'd have to ask them actually first, where did you get this from? And then they'd have to tell us.
Josh, we got a practical question for you in the live chat from Paul, who asks, what are the costs at Vaultoro for merchants who want to go into gold to hedge their profit and to go OT again? More than Visa? Does it cost more than Visa? Again. Oh, go out again. Yeah, I think they missed the year. And go out again. Oh, to go in and go out again. Does it cost more than Visa for merchants?
No, so we definitely want to get it less than merchants. Absolutely, far less. I mean, merchants, I think they're paying like 2 to 3%, and sometimes even more, depending on what sort of contract they've got. But yeah, we want to get that down to under 1% for sure.
Right, and we think we know like Visa, MasterCard, it's like 3% upwards. I think American Express is even a lot higher from memory, depending where you are in the world. And don't forget, those merchants then have to pay a monthly fee just for the privilege of accepting Visa, MasterCard. What a monopoly! And then every time you go to get dinosaur paper money at one of those ATMs, what does it say on those cards? Visa, MasterCard. They're rinsed in the system.
It's amazing. And then not only that, the client also pays to have a lot of the time access to the card. I just paid $14 to have my bank account reissue a card to me every year. I mean, it's nuts. They're really soaking it up. And to think that Visa and MasterCard have had a monopoly on payments on the internet for the last X years, unbelievable. We're sitting with this 1950s technology that have literally duopolized the entire payment space on the internet. And the internet is only two things: it's information and money. And how big is information on the internet? It's massive. How big's money? Absolutely massive. Duopolized. It's nuts.
I'm so
money
happy.
Is literally everything.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that, because sometimes, especially after the 2008, 2009 banking crisis, all-time highs of resentment towards bankers and banking institutions. But you're right, it's Visa, MasterCard, the payment processors are the real monopolies. Yes, it's the central banks that artificially inflate our currency and we lose our purchasing power. But really, the people charging the fees, profiteering from us end consumers and merchants as a payment processor, is Visa, MasterCard, and these other services. That's why we need alternatives. And it's all about, it's not just the money revolution. It's about providing a real utility over a legacy-based system that not only gives advantages to end users, but also merchants as well.
Yeah, I think people underestimate the Visa MasterCard monopoly. And it's not just like, well, where can I buy stuff online? There's a lot of places that have, not so much here in New Hampshire where I'm at, but whenever I had the unfortunate displeasure of traveling out to California for conferences, there's a few places, we're actually cashless here. And okay, now you can't do anything. But also, there's so many government associated fees in the United States, because I don't live anywhere else. So I don't know what's like elsewhere, that are all card only. So for example, a lot of times if you want to renew some sort of a registration thing online, card only. And some type, like even court fees, because I used to work as a paralegal back in the day for my uncle who was processing bankruptcy. And just in order to submit documents on behalf of his client, you have to go to this terminal we used to joke about. It says plastic card payment. It's a funny phrasing, but still, it's just, you have to put in a card in order to just access the justice system and just stuff like that. It just, you can't be like, well, can I like fax in a check or whatever other antiquated payment method? But like,
can I pay with these stamps?
Yes. It's not just, I mean, obviously the government wants to take government money. That's a monopoly that I don't like, but I understand. But the government says you must use some of these companies, otherwise you could go to jail. Literally, it's like, use Visa, MasterCard, or go to jail. It's really, really scary if you think about it, which is why I like some of these options, like that allow you to pay taxes, etc., in cryptocurrency. Like in a couple of states, they have set the state treasurer has some setups that allow you to like pay For example, corporate and state taxes with cryptocurrency, and it's like a lot of people are like, I don't want to give the government my crypto, and it's like, yeah, but don't you want to break the monopoly? Don't you want to make it so that this cartel kind of gets broken up a little bit? I would think so.
Can I just play devil's advocate? Right.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm British, so I'm always going to think worst case scenario. So
Yeah.
if I've got gold in Vaultoro and you die, or you go the way of the dodo and go bankrupt, can I still get my gold from the vault?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I wanted as a gold gold bug.
Buff.
A gold buff. As a gold bug, I really wanted
Gold
it to be
toned. Yeah, sorry.
It was that exact thing. Startups 9 out of 10 fail, and this was one of the things. Going back to the Mt. Gox bankruptcy, 9 out of 10 startups fail, just like Mt. Gox did. And so I really wanted it that if something was to happen to us, if something was to happen to Vaultoro, it didn't matter. Our client's gold is their gold in their name as their stuff, sitting at Pro Orum voting facility in Switzerland. They can go and pick it up, they can get it sent to them. In fact, what we did, we took it as far as to say the settlement records we have encrypted, and a third-party law firm has access to the encrypted data of settlement records. And a fourth-party law firm has the private key to that encrypted settlement records. Now, if something was to happen to us, plane crash or anything like that, the two parties have been instructed to come together, and so there's a record of full settlement. These sorts of things, these sort of redundancies are really, really important. And I think that it can only really be done with gold. You can't allocate cash. You can try to open a bank account for every client, but then you're not allowed to go in and then move that money on the client's behalf. So there's lots of issues. So this is why gold is a really interesting for me, and I'm surprised that it hasn't. In one way, I'm surprised that it hasn't been replicated. That the Vaultoro model hasn't been replicated, because we're relatively successful. We're turning money, but it's just a very useful function. It just makes sense to have something that's off of our books, something that's not on our books, that if we go broke, it doesn't belong to us. It's nothing for our liquidators to touch.
Okay, what about if I bought $1 million worth via crypto of gold on your platform? Is there like any AML issues, or do you report any information back to authorities?
No, we of course we have to. If there's a large transaction, we have to ask the client. We're obliged to ask for how they got that value. That's something that is European wide. It's we don't have to ask if it's low value. So if it's like 20, 30, 50, 100,000 even. Once it gets above that, we're obliged to ask. But there's no, it's like MediaMarkt or I don't know, some store. If you go to buy a television, you don't have to show AML for buying a very expensive television. And gold is a good. It's not like fiat. It's not a currency. It's not money. It's not money anymore. Of course it is. I believe it is. A lot of people believe it is. But in terms of what the state believes it is, they believe it is a good. It's a pure good, just like a television. So it falls under different regulatory frameworks. Now we do follow the LBMA regulatory framework. The London bullion markets are an amazing use case actually for crypto regulations, I think, also, because the London bullion markets are very well organized and very well regulated, but the regulation is all voluntary. The regulation means that if you follow these rules, we'll give you our stamp of approval, and that stamp of approval is very sought after. It's trusted. So this is how I think crypto regulation needs to move forward, to say, here is a list of best practices for exchanges, cold wallets, audited, a Glassbox protocol, all these different key things, and we should if you follow that, then you get, like, I don't know, the Antonopoulos stamp of approval or something. I don't know. I'm just saying, putting some sort of thing that we have a regulatory framework that can be, because right now it's not really clear. We're sort of waiting for the state to come along and say, oh, give us regulations, give us death. And it's like, hey guys, why don't we all get together and decide on best practices in this industry, and decide on a brand that we all can stamp on our websites to say we're following these, and we have an auditor comes in that proves that we follow these.
So what are the KYC? When do you have to report? You said 20, 30, 100,000. That's quite a bit of a difference. How do you?
No, so 100. We don't have to report. I don't like to say straight out exactly the number, but 100K I don't see as a normal thing. Now, if someone was coming in every day with 100K, then it's kind of more of a common sense thing. If someone's living in some kind of a more of a poorer country where 10K is a lot of money, and they're putting 10K a day, we'd be like, dude, yeah, we had to write them, hey, what's going on here? Where's this coming from? And they had to just show some proof, and that's fine. But if someone puts 100K on us, it's not gonna really trigger anything. But it's it's one of these common sense things to say. I don't want personally criminals using our service. I don't want it like it. I don't want it. But as well, I don't want to be intrusive on free people to constantly ask them where they got their stuff from, or to refuse business with them. But as a private business, I don't want bad actors on there as much as anyone else.
Do y'all say how much gold y'all have allocated right now? Is that?
Yeah, you can look on audit.vaultoro.com, and you can. And this is how the Glassbox protocol works: is that we give everybody an anonymous ID, so only they know that ID. And then what they do is they log out of Vaultoro, so we don't know that they're checking, and they can at any time look at audit.vaultoro.com, find their anonymous ID, and we publish every ID there with the amount of currently Bitcoin and gold they own. In the future, it'll also have Dash, of course. So then they can say, okay, well, that's exactly how much I own, and they don't know I'm checking. So I can presume that everyone else is correct as well. Otherwise, there'd be red flags on the internet. Someone would be complaining. You can then scroll down to see the sum of, or you can, download the CSV file and calculate the sum of everybody's holdings. And you can check that against our cold wallet addresses and our warm wallets. We're still trying to figure out how to do the hot wallet stuff, because hot wallets, everyone can generate hot wallets like there's no tomorrow. So if we have a list of 1 billion hot wallets, it kind of gets unruly and hard to check. So we're really focused on grandma friendly. But on the gold side, what they can do is we publish then the vaulting facility statements. We also publish the auditing certificates and the insurance paperwork. So people can say, okay, they should have 535 kilos. Oh yeah, that's what the audit certificate says. Great.
Does this include serial numbers on gold bars as well? So say, for example, I put in a big substantial amount, and that's just it, just a one-time thing. And then I can do an audit, but then if I come back in 2 months' time, I can check the audit, and then I can see the gold in storage, and then I can check the serial number saying, oh yeah, okay, it's still the same. Because otherwise, in the past, there's been some sort of, I don't want to say scams, but obviously there's a lot of people talking about the COMEX, and they're switching around the gold bars and all that sort of stuff, and the traders. Yeah. So to have seeing the serial numbers of the gold bars and stuff would be interesting. Has anyone ever brought that forward to you and suggested that, or is that?
Yeah, it's something that I definitely want to do. It's something we're looking at for Vaultoro 2.0. It's something that we're looking when we tokenize the gold when we make that gold able to be sent around. We want to tie that to individual bars. Currently, we don't have the bar serials published. Of course, they're all serialized. They're LBMA standard bars from Horeos, but we don't publish those serial numbers currently. It's something that I want to do for Vaultoro 2.0. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that'd be awesome, especially with when you start getting into silver. What's it like a 1,000-ounce bar from the LMBA, right? Something like crazy like that. I mean, that's a big bar.
It's a big bar. It's a heavy bar.
Yeah. We should actually, Joshua, we should just explain for our American friends across the pond, if they're not familiar with LMBA, because they may have heard of the COMEX, Chicago, but really, when it comes to precious metals, London is kind of where it's at. In fact, the Rothschilds in London not too long ago used to set the daily price for gold and silver in London not that long ago. In fact, one of the reasons why I left the bullion vault service is because I found out there was actually the Rothschilds that actually owned that service, or I had a large stake in it. So I had to find a bucket and go and have to get my money out.
No, that's right. The silver fixing is gone. They're also looking at removing gold fixing, which is a spot price that they fix twice a day around the world. And it's kind of useful, but it's also very manipulative. I mean, how can you have a free market among multiple jurisdictions around the world, all around the world, and then fix the price to one certain price and say, everyone use that now? I mean, nowadays we have instant, updates. We've got streaming. We've got great technologies to update prices. So I don't think we need spot anymore, because I do feel it's a type of manipulation.
Yeah, and when I say scam manipulation, for those out there, and if you're really interested, if you go to GATA, GATA, they've done lots of research on just basically rigging up the market. Same like Enron, the energy scandal, and Forex. Some big bankster players have been trying to rig the market certain ways, and GATA have actually made this information public and actually pursued some legal cases against banks and stuff. So, when you've got big banks and they're moving bars about and stuff, all kinds of trading and profiteering can be made. But I just wanted to make that distinction.
Andrew Maguire, he blew the whistle.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah, JP Morgan, I think he was at, right? And that's the thing. And as Josh was just saying, like, they used to be on the phone. So the top big banks, they would literally just call up their phones and they would all agree a price on the day. It sounds crazy when you think what a huge market it is. And even the precious metals market now, just gold alone is so much bigger. I don't know the figure off the top of my head, but the market cap's in the trillions. So when you look at like cryptocurrency right now, just the total cryptocurrency market cap, we're still a tiny fraction of just what gold is. So when we think about gold, silver, everything else, I think in the Forex, they trade something like $7 trillion a day just in currency.
It's a lot. Yeah. Gold is the second most liquid market under the FX market. And, just gold purchases, pure purchases, are 163 billion a year globally. And that's just someone buying physical, and that's not even ETFs. That's just physical purchases. So when it comes to trading back and forth, it's like you said, it's in the trillions.
Yeah. Do you see? I don't want to play like doomsday, but obviously with recessions, there's a pattern, right? If you follow wealth cycles, the last 40 to 50 years, every 7 to 10 years, there's been a recession. The last one, 2008, 2009. If you do the maths, it's been a decade. A lot of people are kind of anticipating it. They can't put a date on it, but they're suspecting something. Italy's fallen on its arse. They're having banking problems. Europe's got issues. People are thinking something's going to happen. Max Kaiser often talks about this in like 2008. Obviously, we saw from 2008, 2012, precious metals went on a bull run. Cryptocurrencies weren't around then. Bitcoin came out after the financial crisis. So we've got a whole generation now kind of that's grown up. Kind of crazy to think like Bitcoin's been out a decade, but people aren't familiar with that. And people see gold as a relic, especially youngsters, right? Because they don't see it every day. I always say, like, what am I, like a pirate? Like, what am I going to do with gold and silver? So if you think at some point in the future, if there's going to be a financial crisis, do you think personally, your personal opinion, this isn't financial advice for those watching, in your personal opinion, do you think what will happen is in the last financial crisis, people will move to precious metals as a safe haven asset? Or do you think people will be more inclined to move to cryptocurrency?
I think it's up to us as a community, whether into gold or Bitcoin, to start telling people to move into assets that aren't controlled by governments now, not during the crisis. Once the crisis is hit, it's literally too late. We saw this in Greece and Cyprus as well. There was on-ramps into crypto for the Cyprians during that time. It was very, very small. Also, there was a massive scam with NeoB, but there were on-ramps and no one could do it because banks just shut their doors. Banks just literally shut their doors and they didn't open again for ages. Foreigners were the only ones that could draw out cash more than 100 a day, I think, at ATM. So I believe that crypto will be, for the millennials, something that's very, very interesting. And they should be jumping into that. They should definitely be making a savings plan. But it's for older generations, people that don't have the risk appetite, who have heard a lot of crazy things, including dark markets and this and crash from 20,000 down to 6 or 4 now or whatever. These horror stories are putting people off. And I think we cannot, as much as we all are living in this crypto world, we cannot undermine the value that 3,000 years of storing value has given the brand name of gold. So everyone's had a grandmother or grandfather in there saying, look, just put 5% into gold. Not everyone, but a lot of people have had people. And why do we have gold medals? Why do we stand on gold, silver, bronze? These things are psychologically in the human consciousness, in the human experience. It's like gold is valuable, and that's not just going to disappear because now we have this stuff called crypto. So I would say that it's something that is not just going to go away because now we have something that can move on the internet.
Do you know anything about the demographics of your customer base, just based on that? Like, do you know, are they millennials or are they traditionally older people? It'll just be interesting, because especially where you got that cryptocurrency angle. So I'm kind of just guessing it's probably like middle-aged, like white blokes in their like 30s, 40s in the most part. But I'm not sure if you have access to all that information or not.
Yeah, of course. We do. It surprisingly is older people and very young people. So it's kind of both. The middle ground is kind of thin, but the very young hedge that are very clever, financially clever. They want to hedge into something private that's not hasn't got banking issues, and then you get the older generations who just understand what gold is all about and have looked into economic theory or lived through currency collapses. I mean, if you're Russian and you're in your 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, you've already lived through 2 or 3 currency collapses. So you already know the pain that could be coming up. And so, yeah, it's an interesting, in terms of geographical stuff, we have clients in Myanmar that are holding 10 cents worth of gold in top tier vaulting facility in Switzerland. I mean, this is unheard of in the past. This is something for purely the rich elite, and now people in these small countries can hold small amounts for this hedge. So yeah, it's definitely, I love looking over those statistics, because it really, for me, like going back to the last question of what happens in these massive collapses, it for lack of sounding cheesy, or for fear of sounding cheesy, but it warms my heart to think that there's people saving in something that's bank independent, state independent, and it's stable-ish compared to crypto. So and I love, me, I'm just all in crypto, but I'm not stupid enough to go, crypto's the new gold. That's it. Gold's finished. It's not. It is. And I don't even believe they're competing. And like many people say, crypto competes with gold. I don't buy it. I think crypto competes with central banking. Crypto competes with fiat. Crypto competes against state apparatuses and monopolies.
What's the minimum that people can hold there?
We do down to 3 cents, I think.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Yeah.
And you said when 2.0 launches, y'all will have silver, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Silver's an interesting one. I see, silver has had this traditional ratio against gold, and this has been widening and widening. A lot of people are saying, man, I want to get into silver now because I believe it's worth more. It has more functionality. It has more value in function. It's antibacterial. Photography is not using it as much anymore, but we now have other use cases. Antibacterial is a huge one. We have hospitals now using it to paint their entire place with to stop these superbugs and all sorts of things. It's also extremely useful in electronics. It's not recyclable because they use such small amounts. So there are definitely use cases. Although I recently read the book, The Bitcoin Standard, or something like I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, I think it's about, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting chapter about gold and silver, saying that silver used to have value because you couldn't divide the gold down very easily. So you had silver to spend your coffees on. It was only the rich elite that had gold, and the normal person had silver. Well, nowadays with divisibility and settlement records or even tokenization, we really don't need that function of silver. So the function of money for silver is definitely not there. But the function for other things for silver are definitely there, and they're not going away anytime soon.
That's a really good point. I mean, I remember hearing the stories of the Roman soldiers getting paid silver coins, a denarius, right? And
A
that
dime,
would,
dime a day.
so that would, and actually even gold silver bugs now use that to try and see what that would buy in today's value. Obviously, with the population rising and stuff as well. It's some interesting numbers. I do think it was really good of you to mention the gold to silver ratio. That's a really good point, just for investors alike. Even if you're not into buying speculative junior miners and that sort of stuff, I think historically the silver to gold ratio used to be like 14-1. And last time I checked, it was something like 80-1. So I can understand why there are people that want to take advantage of that. If you follow wealth cycles, you can do very well. I mean, these play out over a long time. So, you should be doing it with like a 5-year to 10-year outlook. But that's really cool. Right. I've got to ask you a security question, Joshua. So
Go for it.
I don't want you to think I'm grilling you all the time, but
No, I man, crypto, there's far too much sketchy shit in crypto not to grill companies that deal in crypto. Grill. It's
okay.
most important. And I like that people are vigilant. If that doesn't exist, I feel sorry for everyone.
Well, I appreciate you being a good sport. So here's my question. Earlier on, you said in your service that people can sign up and they get an email. They get an email account and they log in via email. What security measures are in place? Say Brian's got an email account with you. I hack his account. I get his username, password, and then I log into his service. Is there any security measures that would prevent me from selling Brian's gold, putting it into Dash, private sending it, and keeping it for myself? Like, what is there anything to stop me from doing that?
Yeah. So from day one, we've had, of course, two-factor. It's like the minimal you can do on a server. So two-factor is extremely important on Vaultoro, and we have locked payout addresses. So once you create a payout address, you lock it, and you can't change that unless you use the two-factor again. So even if someone has your email and your password, somehow he's left his computer or her computer and she's already logged in, they can't go and change their Dash address and change and send that off there. So that's a security measure. In the future, we want to have YubiKey integration, so that some people are starting to really enjoy the fact that you can have a hardware that you need to physically touch to send to sign a message to say I'm here and log me in. So we're integrating that. We're also looking into the stuff that Trezor is doing by enabling login with Trezor. This is also an absolutely beautiful thing. There are the original Bitcoin wallet that Andreas Schulbach wrote. Someone cloned that and put a signing feature in that too, so people can start signing messages by signing a Dash message using Dash D or something like that to say, hey, this is my private key, sign it. But I think I'm a big fan of simplicity. So trying to stick with hardware wallets that people know, too much complexity it gets hard. But yeah, very, very good question. And the locked payout addresses are one of the best forms of protection for people. Sure, it's a bit insecure in terms of chain analysis, because people can then say, hey, look how much is withdrawn to this address every week or whatever. But at the same time, I would say, don't use us as a mixing service. We aren't designed as a mixing service. We're not a privacy service. We're a way to hedge into gold. If you want your stuff secure, mix it outside of our service and do with what you will.
And 2FA by default, correct?
Pardon?
So in terms of the security thing, it's 2FA security by default.
By default it's off, but we're constantly on people, because some people don't have the app, but we're constantly pushing it. And then what we do is we have a second email it's like a 6 number and letter code that we send to their email to then, and that's also sent from a separate service. So yeah, it's but yeah, 2-factor, we're constantly telling people to use it, because man, nothing feels worse, guys, than getting an email saying my account has been hacked. And we try to do what we can. We try to shut down their account if they've got anything left, and it hasn't happened too often, thankfully. It's happened very rarely, but sometimes people just use idiotic passwords like password or God or whatever. Actually, we don't allow such easy passwords. So there is that.
Thank God. Sorry, I had to say that.
No, we don't allow stupid stuff. But when I'm talking about silly passwords, people leave their computers unlocked. They do all sorts of stuff, or they have a hissy fit with their spouse, and their spouse runs off with or their roommate, or dorm mate. You never know. So it's these locked addresses are key.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the 2.0 release. Let's wrap it up.
Cool, man. Joel, sorry, man, I've been hogging it. So before we wrap up, would you use this service? And have you got any thoughts or any questions that you want to put over to Josh?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm like the target customer for something like this, since I'm just living the good grand old crypto experiment. I'm definitely not the smart one of the bunch.
I'll be using it.
You don't want to diversify?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm generally trying to stay as ghetto as possible with all this kind of stuff, but I definitely would investigate. Now, we've been so focused on this absolutely crucial bit of subject material that we've had a crazy week in Dash this week that you haven't even touched on. So I'm gonna, what do they call, like, not touch? It's just like smash for Dash.
Yeah,
totally smash for Dash.
Totally smash on.
Do it.
Thing version 0.14 of Dash is out. It's out on testnet right now. And for those who haven't been paying attention too much, version 0.13 just was a couple months ago was released. And that was like the most major overhaul in the history of Dash, basically, in terms of everything it changed, in terms of a major privacy overhaul, in terms of instant send by default, in terms of split key master nodes, in terms of just all kinds of good stuff. And then already there's another earth-shattering update, just like it's out, like within just a couple months. It's like the developers have been really cranking things out at an incredible rate. And I'm really excited about this thing specifically from a backend perspective, the LLM queues or long living masternode quorums are going to be a very interesting way of doing all kinds of stuff backend from here on out. But the main purpose thereof, to begin with, is chain locks to protect Dash against 51% attacks. So now you literally have to buy half of the Dash in existence to spin up master nodes now to be able to execute a 51% attack and not just get some mining hardware or something. Makes it extremely secure. I'm very excited about that. I'm also excited that the Venezuelan department store supermarket giant Traki is not only accepting Dash, but they're partnering with Crypto Buyer, which is going to be running their point of sale system, where Crypto Buyers now has as waiving the fees for the rest of the month, for next month, for all Dash purchases at their ATMs. So that means if you're, say, in Panama, you can just go with like a wad of paper and just shove it into the machine there, get Dash for 0 fee, and then just send it to someone in Venezuela who can buy all their essentials. Like,
amazing.
How cool is that?
Where can they read or learn more about this?
I mean, traditionally, I've recommended places like Cointelegraph and stuff. I'm trolling you so hard, Mark. Dashnews.org, the #1 source for Dash news in the world. If you don't read that, you don't know what's going on in Dash. I'm sorry. So definitely pay attention to that place. We put out all the hot news, breathtaking news stories. We give all the rest of the internet sloppy seconds. No, not really. But I'm saying read it, be up on it. If they're just, I mean, I don't want to talk too much smack. However, I want to talk a little bit of smack where is there like a litecoinnews.org? Where is there a moneronews.org? I mean, sure, there's a few of these, but like if there are any, seriously, go read them. Read them every single day. Compare them with Dash every single day. See what's happening with Dash compared to the rest of the ecosystem. There's just so much going on. So many integrations. So many growth explosions in different countries. There's teams all over the place. So much development. So much new stuff being rolled out. It's pretty incredible. And I'm eternally grateful that I'm able to just kind of like roll around in it and just revel in all the stuff for a living. It's pretty cool. And then just rant to the whole internet on microphone here once a week.
Excellent.
So
right.
Is the long living masternode quorums and 0.14, is this the predecessor to evolution?
It was the second predecessor. Version 0.13 implemented some of the preliminary architecture. This is a lot more. This is just all of it except the actual username contact list thing. And version 1 will be out quite soon. I don't know when, who actually knows, but they are testing a lot of things. In fact, the Dash Core team has done a great job of, now they're doing like this week at Dash Core Group, like a few sentences. And, this week, version 0.14 released on testnet, completed initial security audit of the platform in preparation for open sourcing, which that's another huge thing. The first Evolution repositories, Evolution's been developed in private for years. They've now been made open source. So all the people say, "Oh, Neverlution, Hopium," all this kind of stuff. It's out. You can look at the code now. Anyone can look at, which means look forward to a PivX Evolution near you soon. But that's a different subject. But it's all started to come out. So, but what I was trying to get to is successfully connected to DAPI and sent a payment from the Dash Pay wallet. So the DAPI is a decentralized API as part of the Evolution platform, and they've successfully sent a payment from the Dash Pay wallet. I assume this is all DevNet or something like that. But basically, they're already successfully testing features of Evolution, final Evolution.
Fantastic.
MVP Evolution. And then it will continue to evolve over the years to include all kinds of cool stuff. And it's actually coming out. It's not like, oh yeah, this, 18 more months and we'll be able to use this thing. 18 more months. It's like, no, it's
not like sharding in Ethereum. Is that what?
Pick your crypto project. And to be perfectly fair, Dash has had some criticism for taking a long time to put out this update as well, just because. And I just think Man, it's because no one's ever done it. It's pretty revolutionary. It's pretty exhaustive. It's coming with a lot of other stuff that we didn't even intend. Like I remember with Evan's original roadmap, it was like, oh, 2020, 2023, whenever we're going to look into collateralized mining to like protect against 51% attacks, all this stuff. Wait, now a way better version of that is out pretty much today.
Yeah.
And so it's taken forever, but it's actually coming out now. And it's the whole like, when's proof of stake, when's sharding, when all these other things that you always like a while from now. We'll see when all that stuff comes out. It could come out and blow everyone away and take Ethereum to the next level or whatever else. Lightning could be like super fine-tuned and perfect within 18 months. But again, there's that reaction too. I'm just saying Dash is making stuff happen right now, and then it's going to be up to the rest of the crypto space to be like, oh yeah, well, look at the thing we just put out. And then
I was going to say,
I do like that back and forth of like, boom, just lay it on the table. You can use it now. It works now. It blows everyone out of the water. What you got? Because then everyone else is like, oh, what do we got to come up with something. And then innovation just feeds on innovation. And then before you know it, we're all living in the future.
I was going to say, Joshua, 0.13 is like Vulturo 2.0. 0.13 was a major overhaul, right? Yeah. And it brought many new things. And with 0.14, with the long-living masternode quorums, it brings many other advantages to instant send, private send as well. And this is just the beginning. This is just unlocking Pandora's box. We're just scratching the surface. So much more stuff's going to come. But I don't want to sound like too much hopium. We've gone on for much longer than I originally intended. But before we wrap up, there is a couple questions in the live Q&A. So Joshua, a few quick fire questions from the Q&A channel. You ready?
Bring it on.
Okay. Joshua, I live in Switzerland. Can I visit the gold storage facility before signing up?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. Nice, simple.
Quick
fire.
The address is on our website. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Joshua, I am interested. That's a good sign. I'd be interested more if it was platinum. So you could look into offering other precious metals. We spoke about silver, but platinum. How about that?
Platinum and palladium are things we're looking into as well. We'll probably stop at I don't know, elements that might be radioactive. We'll stop there.
Orange metal and death metal. Those are
death metal.
Right. Well, Joshua, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and thank you for being a good sport, for taking my questions and allow me to grill you a little bit.
They weren't grilly enough, man. Come on, really hammer. Hey, thank you very much. I'm really honored to be working with this and bringing Dash to the world of gold, and I just hope we can do it as fast as possible, because I do want to bring this out. And again, I want to put a big shout out to Lorenzo, Ray, and Alejandro, who are building this Dash way of basically feeding school kids in Venezuela. And there are families out there who literally can't afford food right now. It's been stolen by the printing press. And guys, if you can, jump on their website, donate. I've donated. Many of people that I know have donated. Go out there and use the service. So basically, you can send some Dash, and it'll rain down on the kids at the school that can then use the Dash in the tuck shop to buy lunch and focus on their schooling. This is one of the use cases that really, for me, when I saw the video, I was like, wow, this is it. This is private money. This isn't government money. This is us as private community saying, hey, let's solve problems. And these guys have done a great job. So I am really big thumbs up as well on that.
Oh, top mate, top bloke. That was a really nice shout out. Yeah, and shout out to Dash Text, doing a great job. Where can people go to learn out more about Vulturo? So vulturo.com, it's in the title of this video description for those that are watching, but those that are listening on this, because it goes on to iTunes and other places. But do you have like social media? Where can people go to find out more? How can people contact you?
Yeah, so vulturo.com, that's vault as in a gold vault, and oro, which is Spanish for gold, Vulturo. And you can also @Vulturo on Twitter. There's also that's about it. I've tried to pull back on social media because it steals time, and B, it's just I've got too much going on. But Twitter's the main one. So if you want to keep in touch, definitely check out there, and and check out Voltura.com and see. We also have good tech support. So if you do want to ask questions there, you can instantly send an email.
Well, as you are a veteran podcaster yourself, I hope, and you're very technical as well, and you have development experience. I would hope that you'd like to come back on, and we can talk about some things in general, like Lightning Network, more about this V token. That sounds interesting. I want to dabble into that. Hope, sadly we didn't get enough time to go more into the stable coins. That's a big debate going on, and that's a podcast in itself, to be honest.
Oh, mate, I would really love to. I definitely, I don't generally like coming on podcasts and talking about my business. I think, the shilling your own business is a bit tasteless. But this is.
Sorry,
I mean, Dash isn't a business, right? But I give talks at conferences all the time, and I generally try to educate people about what is money, what is fiat money, what is debt-based money, what's asset-based money, and really educate people on that stuff. And so I'd love to come on and talk about second layer solutions on crypto and what Lightning Network's all about. We've put a lot of thought into that as well, and now into Dash as well. So yeah, absolutely, man.
Sweet. Brian, is it that time?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. He says let's wrap up. He says let's double bag it. So Joel, take us out, my friend.
All right. Let's double bag it then, so we can smash for Dash as hard as we want. So, if you enjoyed this podcast, full of plenty of information, plenty of terrible jokes, and inside humor, then absolutely give us a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Everyone always says those 4 things. I like them all as well. I do actually read the comments, and I do actually react to them. So, don't be a stranger. And we do an audio only version of this. Mark puts that out on Saturdays. He puts the post, the recap post, iTunes, Stitcher, all that other kind of stuff. It's all there in case you want to be going for a run and being here for what we're doing and don't want to be looking at the phone so then you hit into a telephone pole or something. So make sure to go check that out. And then as always, it's time for the after party, which here's what you do. You go to staydashy.com, which Mark's about to drop in the live chat as well. There we go. I predicted it, called it, which takes you to the Dash Talk Discord. And then you just go in there and you start asking around, hey, and where's the after party at? Where's the after? Can we get into the after party? And then it'll be just like this, except instead of 4 of us, it's 10 at a time. And we just talk about anything and everything, Dash related or not Dash related, until the wee hours of the morning. Different waves of people coming in and out and talking about their stuff, grilling each other. There's a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff that happens. The memes are really flying and fire in there because we know this is public, and we know if this airs in Europe with some memes, it could be taken down. So in the after party, it's all okay though.
Excellent. So if you've enjoyed this and you're watching on YouTube, please press that like button, smash for Dash, and don't forget to share and subscribe. That was episode 97 of the Dash News podcast. It's Friday evening where I am. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend wherever you are in the world. Stay positive, stay humble, but most importantly, stay dashy. Have a good weekend, everyone.